Paste. All right, go live.
Yep.
Okay.
So you are now go back to
And broadcast.
Yep. And then record. You're good.
All right, thanks, Jamil. Appreciate it.
Adios.
All right, bye. Oh, hi, everybody. I am so sorry that I am a minute late getting in here. I had a little bit of trouble getting started, and I apologize for that. I think we're streaming live. I think we're broadcasting. I think everything is good. I had to make Jamil come on here with me so that he could help me out. So I am super excited to be on here with you all this morning. I am really excited to share my story. And if for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelli Floyd. I live here in Charleston, South Carolina. I have been a coach for a little over 2 years. And I would love for us to start our time today together with gratitude. I love that we have started our mornings with gratitude for this entire month. It's actually something I've been doing for a while with my own family, and my children actually even participate in gratitude. We started doing that in the mornings, actually. I wanted to make it a habit. And so what I did was I scheduled it on my calendar. You know, they always tell you to live by your calendar and to go by your calendar. And so I scheduled it on my calendar. And every morning at 7:00, it would alert me that I needed to do gratitude. And so I would just do it silently in my head. And usually at 7:00, I was in the car with my kids. And I used to view it as not so much of a blessing, but there's a good bit of traffic here. And we had about a 45-minute drive to get my little boy to school, and the girls were usually with me. And so I thought, why am I just doing this in my head? Why don't I do this out loud? And so I explained to the kids what I was doing, and I began to do it out loud and model it for them. And then I thought, well, why don't I ask them if they want to join me and do gratitude themselves? And so I started asking them if they wanted to do gratitude, and they did. And at first they just said the same things that I said. And then after a little while, they started fighting to get to say their gratitude first, which fighting isn't necessarily good, but it was amazing that they were that excited about doing gratitude. So I started letting them tell me what they were grateful for. And it was the most amazing blessing. So I encourage you to do this with your kids. And it's a blessing because it just showed me their little hearts. They were just so, it was like a little window into them and what's important to them and what they love and what they're grateful for. And yeah, I don't know if any of you are parents, but there are mornings when getting out the door and getting everybody where they need to go is incredibly difficult. And by the time you get in the car, you're done. And the tone for your day is just set, and it's just not going to be good because it's just been so rough. So on mornings like that, I'm so glad that we do gratitude because it shifts our morning and hence it shifts our day. And I love that. And then the other part of that is that if it's already a good morning, it just makes it even better. And so it just really carries on and carries throughout the day. And it's just, I'm telling you guys, it is an incredible blessing to get to do that with my kids every morning. And I'm so glad that I scheduled it in my calendar and I made it happen. And, there are mornings that it doesn't, but when it does, it just really sets the tone for our day. So I'm sure in the time that I'm talking, hopefully you all have had time to reflect on things that you're grateful for. Maybe you've already done that this morning, but I love to start my day that way. And this morning, I just have to say I'm grateful for Jamil for hopping on the phone with me and showing me what I was doing wrong, because I knew how to do this. I knew how to live stream. I did it for the community call, but somehow I forgot between then and now. So again, I apologize for hopping on here late. I got on 10 minutes early and I couldn't figure it out. So, but we're good. We're on and we're ready to go. So y'all know my name is Kelly, and I would love to just share a little bit with you about my journey and my life before Optavia and why I was seeking change in my life. And oh, guys, it seems like eons ago. It seems like such a long time ago. But my journey with Optavia started after having my second little girl. And I should probably back up a little bit before that and kind of give you a peek into my life and where I was before that. Um, my husband and I had a little boy who was just 2 when we moved here to Charleston for him to take a job, for my husband to take a job, not my little boy. And when we moved here, I didn't know anybody. I was working for an early intervention company. I was the supervisor for all of the speech language pathologists in the state of South Carolina. And they asked me if I would just start our Charleston office and continue to, or not our Charleston office, but our Charleston speech team, and continue to supervise for the state. And I said, okay, sure. So that meant that for a while, I worked at home a lot. And I am not a person who likes to be alone. Solitude is something that I'm working on and I'm getting better at, but at the time it was something that I hated. I remember telling the owners of my company, who also have done Optavia, guys. I shared it with the people who own my company, and one of them's one of my coaches, so you just never know. But I told him, I was like, if you hear from people that I'm walking around Target just middle of the day, I mean, I realize that I'm supposed to be working, but I have to see people or I'm going to go crazy. And so, like, that is where I was. I was living in a place where I didn't know anybody. I was pregnant with our second child. My husband is an attorney, and he worked all the time, which he was learning a new type of law, and he had switched to the other side. And so I just was home alone with a 2-year-old by myself, or working by myself a lot. And for me, that was really, really, really hard. And then I had Meyer, our second baby, and it was really scary because she had pneumothorax when she was born, and one of her lungs collapsed, and she was in the NICU for a while, and thankfully she was fine, and we came home, but I still didn't know anybody, and I was still mostly by myself now with 2 kids, and maybe a touch of postpartum depression. I was not taking care of myself. I was heavier than I had ever been in my entire life. And I had these 2 little babies to take care of and keep up with. And I was struggling. I was tired all the time. If I sat down on the couch and didn't have a cup of coffee, I was going to fall asleep. And it was just really, really hard. And it was a place in my life that I never saw myself being in, and I desperately wanted change, but I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to do it. And so that is honestly how I arrived at Optavia. And I'd like to kind of just insert here that, you know, we're all just living our lives, but at the same time, there's this bigger plan at play, and how we don't really understand at the time or even realize how all the little things in life add up to be a part of that bigger plan is usually only in hindsight that we really follow the train of events to see how, even though they didn't make sense at the time, they were part of the bigger plan for our life. And we aren't often even aware of it, or at least I wasn't. So that's kind of where my story is going to start with Optavia. So 4 years ago, I got a friend request from someone that I was in a baby wearing group with. At the time, I was really into baby wearing because my first little boy had he had acid reflux, and it was the only way for me to survive. And so after I had him, I learned how to wear him for survival. And then when you have 2 kids and one's a little 2-year-old who's potty training at the time, you figure out really quickly that you need to wear the other baby for your survival as well. And so at that time, I was kind of one of those lurkers on social media. I rarely posted. I never sent or accepted friend requests from people I didn't know. And I really spent very little time on social media, any outlet, honestly. But for some reason on that day, I accepted a friend request from Emily Flores. She was a girl in the group that I was in. She was kind of a leader in the group. She commented, she posted frequently enough that I recognized her name. And honestly, I was a little flattered that she sent me a friend request at the time. And so on that day, I broke my rule and I accepted a friend request from someone I didn't really know. And I remember thinking at the time, what the heck, why not? Little did I know this would set into action a chain of events that would eventually transform and save my life. Honestly, the next bit was, it was just really textbook. I liked a before and after. Emily sent me a message to follow up. I sat on the message for 10 days, y'all. Yes, I did. And then again, I just said, what the heck? What do I have to lose? And I responded to the message. She set up an explore call. We did the call. I thought about it. I hopped on program and I killed it. I killed program. Literally easiest thing that I have ever done. But of course, Coach was mentioned on my 1 week celebration call. I remember being flattered again. Oh, who me? Yes. Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you to say. But I thought, nope, that's not for me. I'm a speech language pathologist. I supervise all the SLPs in the state of South Carolina for my early intervention company. I love my job. I have a master's plus 30. And honestly, the litany of excuses goes on and on and on, which is all really just to say that I wasn't ready. I was scared and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I got pregnant about 3 months into maintenance. And when I had my third baby, I decided that clearly this was the ideal time to coach. It makes a lot of sense, right? I had just added a third child under the age of 5 to the mix. I was still a supervisor for the same company. I had even less time, but for some reason it seemed like a great idea. Well, here's what you don't know. Inside, I was worried that if I did program again, I wouldn't be as successful. I was worried that I needed more accountability, and I knew coaching was a way to force me to be accountable. And then there was this Emily chick. I really liked her a lot. And in the back of my head, I thought, maybe we'll get to be friends if I do this coaching thing. So I sent her a text and I said, I want to coach and do program. And I was sucked in. Now, what I haven't told you at this point is that I'm a rule follower. I was also a people pleaser to my core, and I worried a lot about what other people thought about me. I'm also secretly competitive, not so much with other people as with myself. So when Emily gave me action steps, I honestly didn't think about it too much. I just did it. That's where a rule follower can be a really good thing. But I was also one of those coaches. We all know those coaches. And I said I just wanted to help people. You literally couldn't have pried a money amount out of me if you had wanted to. And at the time, I wasn't particularly concerned with money. I remember on my senior coach celebration call, Jamil said, so have you been getting the money deposited in your account? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, you can deposit it in my account if you don't want it. I really hadn't even looked. Like I never paid attention. This is so silly to say, but I had never paid attention to our finances very much. I mean, we always had enough money to do what we wanted and what we needed. So I selfishly wanted the accountability for me, but I just said that I wanted to help a few people. Guys, this business is funny sometimes because if you just do what your mentor tells you to do, this whole snowball thing begins to happen and you end up building a business, whether that was ever your aim or not. And as you do all the things you're told to do, another funny thing happens. You begin to change. You begin to see things differently. You begin to grow. You begin to wake up. For me, that looked like beginning to realize that my life didn't have to be the way it currently was. That it was okay for okay not to be good enough. That I could want more for myself and my family. I can tell you that this growth that started happening produced some friction in my marriage. Now, a lot of this was my fault. I didn't know what I didn't know. I probably thought I was pretty self-aware, but I was light years from where I needed to be. My communication sucked when it came to being open and honest with my husband about how I really felt and what I really wanted. And my emotional intelligence was pretty daggone low. I was a slave to my emotions. And most of my reactions and decisions were based on the immediate feeling that came up. Let me tell you, that's not such a great space to be in. My husband was having his own struggles at the time, and personal development and growth just weren't on his radar at all. We were just surviving and had been for a while. So, about the time I went to my first convention, my marriage was literally crumbling around my ears. If I'm honest, I actually went to convention to get away from him and my life. I wanted to be around the people that had begun to feel like my family and closest friends. I wanted to be around people that elevated me and made me want more and want to be more. I wanted to escape my life and immerse myself in what was possible. I had gotten a very small glimpse of this when I came out to the ChemFest Running to the Roar event in May, and I craved more of what I had been introduced to at that event. So in case y'all are looking for a theme of coaching, events is a pretty big theme. When I returned from convention, my husband and I decided that we needed to separate and not live together anymore. And honestly, at the time, I didn't know if we would even stay married. I told y'all my emotional intelligence was not awesome at this point, and emotions and feelings ruled the day in every decision I made. It's not a great place to be making big, important, life-altering decisions, and thank goodness I didn't. Instead, I found myself a single mom of 3 kids under 5 who was clinging to every little thing in her life that she could control when along came this magical thing called August Madness. Now, I'd heard about March Madness way back when I had started coaching, but I had maybe been coaching 3 days when it started, so I just stayed in my becoming a senior coach lane and I didn't join in. To this day, I'm honestly not sure why Emily offered August Madness to me. She was very aware of what was going on in my life. I've been brutally honest with her. And I'm betting many mentor coaches would have made that decision for me. Actually, guys, let me pause right here and talk about that. If you hear only one of the things I say today, I want you to hear this. Stop making decisions for other people. And if I'm stepping on toes, I'm not even sorry, because you need to hear this. Don't decide things for other people because you don't know. Don't decide that someone can't afford our program. Don't decide that someone won't want to coach. Don't decide that someone doesn't want to come to convention or hop on a celebration call or whatever it happens to be. It's not your decision to make. Let me say it again for all the people in the back who are talking and didn't hear me the first time. Stop making decisions for other people. You don't know what they want or what they're capable of or what their priorities are. Your job is just to offer the opportunity. And what they do with it is their decision. Next time you go making a decision for someone else, stop and ask yourself, is this fair to make a decision without even consulting the person I'm making the decision for? I promise you that it's not. And I am thankful every day that Emily didn't make that decision for me. So back to my story. I would imagine that most coaches would have said, oh, she's got so much going on. There's no way she would want to get on a call every day and do this series. It's too much. Guys, can I just say that not many days go by that I don't thank my lucky stars that this woman is my coach, mentor, and friend? And did I mention that long ago thought of maybe we could be friends with together, like we could be friends, actually has come to pass? She's one of my favorite and best friends. But I digress. I am forever and ever and ever grateful that she offered that opportunity to me. I am forever grateful that she put that ball in my court and let me make that decision. And I'm forever grateful that I made the decision to go all in and do the work. Guys, if I hadn't been in that series, I can honestly tell you that I'm not sure where I'd be today. I was literally coming apart at the seams. I had a death grip on what was left of my life because I felt like everything was spiraling out of control. August Madness was my anchor. It was a place I could come every day for an hour. I was taken out of myself. For an hour, I was required to think and vibrate and be on a different plane. More was required of me. Better was required of me. Evolution was required of me. At the same time, I was going to therapy once and sometimes twice a week. I can honestly tell you that I got more from August Madness that month than I got from therapy. It forced me out of my comfort zone that I was trying desperately to stay in. I like to joke and say that Madness series like to light you on fire and shove you out of your comfort zone. And that's exactly what that month did. It is the time when my coaching journey really started. It's when I utilized coaching as the springboard to bring about massive growth and transformation in my own life. And that started with me. I was the only thing I could control. I couldn't control what was happening in my life, but I sure could control how I reacted to it. And I began to do just that. Honestly, not well at first. I failed often, and I failed hard. But every time I picked myself back up and I kept going. I kept trying. I kept learning. I kept growing. I kept overcoming obstacles. I started to use them as ways to grow and learn more. I began to think differently. I began to say things differently. I began to act differently. At this point, I was deep down the rabbit hole of personal development. I would identify a trigger, a fear, a concept, an issue, and I'd find a book or a blog or a podcast or a YouTube video that helped me to know and learn more about that. And with each thing I listened to or read, it was like having a big bucket of ice cold water dumped on my head. I don't know if any of you have ever had that feeling when you read something that resonated really strongly with you and made you wake up. But guys, I was waking up to myself slowly but surely. I was becoming conscious. I was becoming aware. I was becoming more. But along the way, there were so many times I wanted to turn back and hide from the knowledge and the growth and the reality of who I was and how I view the world through my lens. I wanted to run away from the behaviors and the thoughts that I was just becoming conscious of for the first time. Or maybe I realized they were there, but now I had a language to explain it. One of the most powerful tools during this time were the books that my therapist guided me towards. Those books are what started my awakening. Things like Love Warrior by Glennon Doyle Melton, which taught me the power of owning my own story and being vulnerable. Guys, I can't begin to tell you how incredibly uncomfortable that book made me. It was the first time I'd ever experienced someone being so open and honest. There were so many times as I read that I cringed for her and what she was sharing. I never encountered such raw honesty. It was awakening in the best way. This led me to Brené Brown and her books Rising Strong and The Gifts of Imperfection, and on to Shauna Nyquist and her book Present Over Perfect. I literally devoured these texts and then read them again and again. These books are written in, highlighted, the pages are dog-eared, and they are well loved and used. And then there was something my therapist introduced me to called the Enneagram. Guys, this was such a huge window into my soul that it took me a year to be ready to really study it and learn what I needed to learn about myself to begin to live up to my greatest potential and consciousness. One of my favorite books on the Enneagram was written by someone named Beatrice Chestnut. And in her book, she shares a story from The Wisdom Way of Knowing by Cynthia Beauregard. I'm going to read you the story because I think that as it resonated with me, it'll probably resonate with y'all. Once upon a time, in a not so far away land, there was a kingdom of acorns, nestled at the foot of a grand old oak tree. Since the citizens of the king were modern, fully westernized acorns, they went about their business with purposeful energy. And since they were midlife baby boomer acorns, they engaged in a lot of self help courses. There were seminars called Getting All You Can Out of Your Shell. There were woundedness and recovery groups for acorns who had been bruised in their original fall from the tree. There were spas for oiling and polishing those shells, and various acornpathic therapies to enhance longevity and well being. One day, in the midst of this kingdom, there suddenly appeared a naughty little stranger, apparently dropped out of the blue by a passing bird. He was capless and dirty, making an immediate negative impression on his fellow acorns. And crouched beneath the oak tree, he stammered out a wild tale. Pointing up at the tree, he said, "We are that." Delusional thinking, obviously, the other acorns concluded, but one of them continued to engage him in conversation. "So tell us, how would we become that tree?" "Well," he said, pointing downward, "it has something to do with going into the ground and cracking open the shell." "Insane," they responded. "Totally morbid." "Why then, we wouldn't be acorns at all." The book goes on to explain, before we do the conscious work of self development, we are the seeds of what we may become. To transform from our acorn self into our oak tree self, we must traverse our underground territory, allow our defenses to crack open and break down, and consciously integrate our disowned feelings, blind spots, and shadow traits so that we can shake off the limiting outer shell of our personality and grow into all that we are meant to be. Nature brings us part of the way, but to fully manifest our potential, we need to make conscious efforts to grow. Knowledge is a function of being, so to make the improvements in our world that we so desperately need to make, we must advance our capacity for consciousness. Guys, this has been my story. I've gone underground. I have looked at those really ugly parts of myself. Things that were revealed about me as I've become conscious, they aren't all pretty. They're not puppy dogs and rainbows. Some of it made me feel ashamed. It made me feel so incredibly vulnerable and exposed. And it's been hard as hell. But I'll never go back. I'm just going to keep pushing and growing and evolving and becoming, because the work I do is the work my kids don't have to do. And I want so much more for them. They are my biggest why. That why that sits right here on my shoulder, so much bigger than the doubt and the fear and the chatter that sit on my other shoulder. And it's why I'll keep pushing and growing and becoming the person and the leader that I'm supposed to be. So it's honestly funny that I was asked to speak on this topic, because until about a year ago, I wasn't even sure I was able to lead. And that's funny in and of itself, because I've been placing myself in leadership roles my whole life. I've been the student body president of my high school. I was a captain of the cheerleading squad, volleyball, and softball teams, but not basketball. I sucked at basketball. I was an honor student in college and was asked to serve in a leadership capacity. I was a lead teacher for the special education department in the school I worked in. I was a supervisor for the early intervention company I worked for. It seemed my whole life I or others had been casting me in a leadership role. And if you'd asked me if I was good at it, I'm not sure I would have been able to answer. People always liked me. I've been told I'm charismatic and I attract people. But here's the thing. Those things are great, but they don't make you a great leader. I don't think they even make you a good leader. And I wasn't. Everyone liked me. They maybe even followed me and thought I had good ideas, but I was the hero. Never wanted to hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't take responsibility. Instead, I modeled how to take the blame. I didn't lead from above the line. I was an unconscious leader, and I didn't have a clue. So here comes health coaching and this opportunity to bring coaches alongside me to partner and help change the world. And at this point, I knew enough to know that I wasn't a great leader. And if I wasn't a great leader, then why would anyone want to join me on this mission? Well, guys, that was partly true and partly chatter. What had I just spent the last 6 months of my life beginning to do? I'd spent them becoming a more conscious and better me. Well, this was no different. I just had to do the work and learn and grow some more. I had to light myself on fire and push myself out of my comfort zone. And that's what I did. I began to read more. Ever heard of the 15 Habits of Conscious Leadership? Well, if you haven't, it's a good place to start. It's actually one of the books I read well into my journey as a mentor, but I wish I'd read it sooner. And I'd love to share a couple of my favorite waking up moments from this book. I'd also like for you to know that I read this book after getting the honor of attending a training by the authors that Dr. A hosted for us. Once I began to learn about this line that they talked about, I knew I had to know more. So one of the first things in this book that I read that made me go, oh crap, that's me. And I think it might be some of you, so I'm going to share it. And if you're this kind of leader, you're below the line, friends. Heroes hate conflict, pain, and tension, and seek to temporarily relieve their discomfort without really dealing with the issue. They habitually overfunction and take more than their share of responsibility. A good number of leaders we coach have made successful careers out of behaving in this way. In fact, heroes in many organizations are promoted and compensated and enshrined as examples of doing what it takes to get the job done. Yet, we believe that heroing is a primary form of unconscious leadership. It is toxic because it leads to burnout, supports others in taking less than their full responsibility, being victims, and rewards behaviors that ultimately lead to individual and team breakdown. Guys, the wash of shame, I don't know if y'all feel shame in your body. The wash of shame that came over me when I read that, it was tough to see myself in that light. But it is who I have been for most of my life. I was an unconscious leader. I was a hero. Further in the book, as I began to become more conscious and to learn, they say, what if the big questions of life were not, how can we fix this? Or how can we keep this from happening? Or who's to blame for this being this way? But instead, what can we learn from this? Since life is all about learning and growing. Or, I wonder what this is here to teach me about myself and life. My therapist once told me, if you ask better questions, you get better answers. I would ask a question, but it really wasn't the question I wanted to ask. And I never got the answers that I wanted to get because I wasn't asking the right questions. Because these are the right questions. What can we learn? How can we grow? What is this here to teach me? The last thing I'm going to share in the book is about the role of challenge. Because challenges are going to come. Some of you are probably struggling right now. So here, in the experience of growth, pressure plays a critical role. Reactive leaders often revert to seeing obstacles when they encounter a challenge. Alternatively, conscious leaders welcome this experience because they see the benefit of pressure. It either causes them to wake up and take action or allows new things to come forth. Before something changes, it usually breaks down first. For example, athletes know that the workouts that make them faster are the ones that break down their muscles, literally tearing the muscle fibers, so they grow back stronger. Supportive pressure is a catalyst for learning, change, and growth. It challenges the leader to fulfill their potential and live in their full magnificence. Guys, if you're not starting to see a pattern, let me tell you, obstacles, consciousness, taking responsibility, awakening potential. Interesting, right? Another avenue for me was our trainings and learning from people who were really good at mentoring and sponsoring and leading other coaches. I went to Go Global in April of last year. And again, changed my life. Events, guys, ding, 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 ding. I watched and I listened and I read and I studied and I just started sponsoring coaches. I knew what I was doing. I just did it. And I sucked. And I messed up. And I failed. And I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to some of my early coaches. Thank you for sticking it out with me. We were learning together, guys. But I kept learning and becoming more. I leaned into my mentorship hard. And I watched and I listened to them and what they did and how they did it. And I had them watch and listen to me and give me feedback. I began to get asked to train on our Wake Up Dream Big training nights. And so I did. And I got asked to share on Trilogy Zooms. And so I did. And then I got asked to share on bigger Monday night training calls. And so I did. And then I got asked to share on boot camps. And so I did. And here I am training on March Madness. Do you think I wanted to do all those because they lit my fire? Nope. I did it because I wanted to grow. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be a leader who inspired other leaders to join me on this mission. I wanted to become more attractive so I could attract a higher level of people to join me. I became more intentional in what I shared. I began to do things I had never done or wanted to do before because it pushed me and made me grow. Think Facebook Lives. Think events, healthy happy hours. And guess what? As I did it, it got easier and I got better. I'm honestly still not where I want to be. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with the status quo. I'll always want to be and become better. But that's part of it, right? We always want to keep evolving and pushing and growing. When we stop those things, we become stagnant. And when we become stagnant, we die. That's not really what I'm going for. So I choose growth and doing hard things. And guys, I'm still learning that I don't know what I don't know. Just this last week on the ILAC cruise, I learned so much about mentoring and growing coaches that I didn't know. So many ways I can be better and need to study and learn to become more. So let me give you some honest insight and tips. When I think about the people I want to join me on this mission, I look around at the leaders we already have. I look at myself and I try to identify the qualities that they have and that I have that make them such good coaches and such good leaders. What do I want to replicate in my business? And I use the word replicate instead of duplicate because I don't want a bunch of little Kellys walking around. I want coaches with their own visions and desires and drive, but with a system that works and can be duplicated. Does that make sense? So the first thing to identify are the characteristics of the people around you that you would want on your team. Go ahead and do that. Take out your pen and your paper or make a note on your phone and get clear on what you're looking for in a coach. Go ahead. Throw some of those qualities in the chat. Who do you want to partner with? Who you partner with and grow are going to be instrumental in you becoming the conscious leader you want to become. Maybe you want a Jamil Frazier or a Justin Avini. Maybe you want an Emily Flores or Priscilla Allen. I don't know. But what is it about those people that you would want to partner with that makes them so special? But because you can't manifest it until you get clear on what it is you're looking for. I myself am looking for leaders. I want to lead other leaders so that I can truly partner with them, so they can push me and make me level up. I don't want to lead followers. I'm looking for people with values and morals that align with mine. I'm looking for people who are teachable and coachable. I'm looking for others with a heart to serve and a mission-driven mindset. I'm looking for people with passion and vision. I'm looking for influencers. Okay, so now you have who you want on your team, and you get them on your team. How do you awaken them and lead and guide them? I'll give you a hint. It starts with you. That's right. You model what you want them to do. You can't expect of others what you aren't willing to do yourself. So if you want the coaches you partner with to walk the walk and talk the talk, that starts with you modeling that for them. That relationship and trust you're wanting to foster starts at hello. So model from hello what you expect and want. If you want the coaches you sponsor to have an abundance mindset, guess what you better be modeling for them? Guess how you should be living? Guess how you should be showing up in your life? If you want your coaches to live and act and communicate above the line, guess what you should be modeling with your behavior? I believe a good leader doesn't do things for people. They do things with them. They partner. They ask questions and empower rather than giving them all the answers and doing the work for them. Leaders get excited about struggles and obstacles. Jamil once told us that he thinks, I'm so glad this is happening when his coaches struggle, because he knows what kind of breakthrough are on the other side of the struggle if they choose to seek them. Now, I know this is going to sound like I'm going against what I just said about how it all starts with you, but another thing I've learned is it isn't about you at all. So while we need to model what we expect and the ways we hope coaches will grow, when it comes down to it, a conscious leader knows it isn't about them. It's about the one they are leading. It's their dreams we need to get clear on. It's their vision and motivation and drivers that we need to know about and fall in love with, because that's how we awaken them and set the course. And then, once the course is set, we guide them and help redirect and get back on course, but never stepping into the driver's seat. This is true for you, and it's true for the coaches you partner with. I heard Kevin Tinter say last week, why we do our work will always impact how we do our work. Let me say it again. Why we do our work will always impact how we do our work. So getting clear on that for ourselves and with the leader coach that we're working with is so important. And remember that at the end of the day, we aren't accountable to our mentor coach, and the coaches you partner with aren't accountable to you. They're accountable to their why. So we can celebrate them and come alongside them and awaken them and guide them. But at the end of the day, it's their journey. It's their why. And we're just along for the ride. So let me bring it back to the beginning for you. I said at the beginning of my story that we don't ever know at the time what the little decisions we are making will add up to, or what our struggles are preparing us for. And I'm no exception to that rule. I didn't know that saying yes to coaching and the personal development that comes with it would be a huge part of the reason I'm still standing strong today. I didn't know that deciding to do August Madness would save my life and help me create the business I'm continuing to grow today. 2 years ago, when I started my coaching journey, I never could have envisioned half the things I've walked through, but I also couldn't have dreamed of the person I am today or the place I am in my coaching journey. Never would I have believed that I would have walked away from a job that I loved due to my life circumstances, but with no financial repercussions. Not only were there no repercussions, but my finances actually grew in that year that followed. Never would I have imagined that all of the heartache and the tears and the struggle and the pain would lead me to the person sitting before you today. Never would I have dreamed that I would have the amazing honor of partnering with so many others who push me and inspire me and cheer for me. Guys, last night we have a team chat for our Wake Up Dream Big. And I put in there that I was excited and I was trying not to identify it as nervous about tonight or today, this morning. And I just wanted them to send me some positive thoughts and vibes. And they just filled my cup up with love and support. And I never have been in an environment like that, where everybody just wanted better for me and more for me and wished me the best and cheered me on and believed in me. I never knew that this was possible. Never did I dream this. But it makes me wonder, what do the next 2 years hold for me, for you, for our families, for Optavia, and for the world? What is actually possible? How big and great and wonderful can this be? What obstacles will I have to overcome in order to be the person I need to be in 2 years' time to receive the gifts that are in store for me? This past week on the cruise, I was meditating and was kind of questioning some of the whys of what has happened to me. And I heard God say, I didn't do this to you, I did this for you. Guys, there's big things that I'm being prepared for, and I don't even know it. I have to level up to be the person that I need to be to receive the blessings and the prayers that I've asked for. I have to be better. And you do too. What are you praying for? What are you asking for? You have to become the person you need to be to receive those gifts. It's an amazing thing to think about, right? So, are you ready to go all in? Are you ready to live your life to the fullest? Are you ready to become what you were placed on this earth to become? Guys, get ready, because it doesn't take long for life to look a lot different than it looks today. What will your life look like? What will it be? Who will you be? Who will you help? Who will you bring along? Whose life will you save? Because this saved my life. I would be miserable and unaware. How sad is it to think that, like, I might not even know how miserable I would be. It's an amazing blessing that you have in your hand. As I sat on the balcony of the room on the cruise last week, I sent Emily a message and I said, thank you for offering this opportunity to me. Why would anybody not want this? Why would anybody not want to be surrounded by this level of integrity, by this people? I don't know anybody who wouldn't want this. So offer this gift to other people. It's incredibly selfish to keep it to yourself and go grow and become the person and the leader that you were created to be. Guys, you're worthy. You're worthy of whatever you want. You're perfectly made. And life's going to happen. And there's going to be struggles. Use them as your springboard to become more, to transform. Thank you for allowing me to be on here today. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being people that inspire me to grow and become more and level up. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I only want amazing blessings for each of you. So thank you. I hope y'all have a wonderful, amazing Thursday.